So you were at a charity poker game yesterday.
I know. I was playing with this guy.
Yeah, he's pissed off at me still.
Obviously doesn't know how to play when you're with someone at the table.
He came in and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was at a poker tournament. You know, I was like, I play the style with like the turn and the river." And I'm like, "Okay,
Texas Hold'em." I said Texas Hold'em.
Well, obviously, out of everybody no one could knock me out besides this guy, and I'm with him. And I'm like, and I literally said, "Fold." He's like, "Why didn't you give me a signal?" I said fold. I mean, I don't know what other words you want to use in the English language. Fold your cards. He's like, "I got to call this."
Yeah. It was fun. That was a lot of fun.
This is a charity. Yeah. What are you sending signals for in a charity game?
He still wants to win.
It's a winning mentality, man. It doesn't matter. I didn't buy in once. This guy bought in like 5 times.
It's for charity.
Well, firstly, Michael Motamedi.
Motamedi, yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is episode 5 of the Gents Talk series, coming to you from the Startwell studio here in Toronto. Obviously, we have to shout out our sponsors real quick. BULOVA for hooking us up with the beautiful watches. You have the Sinatra watch on.
I love this watch.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's got the fedora.
And it's like perfectly my style because I'm very kind of like simple, like very low stated. I don't wear jewelry. I don't wear nothing. Just a watch.
It's just the personality that's loud.
Yeah, exactly. I have to balance it out. Yeah.
And
some people say loud, some people say annoying. So I like loud better.
Loud is nicer.
Charismatic.
Charismatic's a good one. And then, of course, Got Style for styling the gents here. Appreciate them as always. So, Eamon, I'm going to really kick it off to you because you know Michael. You've known Michael for some time.
Yeah, Michael happens to be a very, very dear friend of mine. And he's got a pretty crazy history. So you've been on MasterChef Canada. You've owned a nightclub, a bar, a restaurant, a fashion brand with someone here at the table.
Person
Poncho?
Baffy baby. A cutting board company. Now you're into commercial real estate. You're building a couple hotels.
Oh, you missed the bourbon industry too.
And most recently, before the real estate, you joined a bourbon company. You took it from zero to what? We can't talk numbers.
We don't talk numbers, but we got, majority stake was acquired by a very large company.
And you did that like pretty much through creative sales and marketing and just thinking outside the box, which, knowing you personally is something I can say you do a lot. You just look at things differently, which is kind of cool. So most recently, though, you're traveling the world with your wife and daughter.
A newborn.
9 months.
9 months.
I'm
Congratulations,
an old man, boys.
You decided to just sell everything off, go travel the world, and then next thing you know, you're blowing up on TikTok. So tell us about that.
When you say it like that sounds pretty cool. I'll be very honest with you. No, but honestly, right now traveling has been quite the journey. It came to a point where I was like, even I was loving what I was doing. When I had my daughter, I was having multiple existential crises a day. You know what I mean? I'm just like asking all these questions in life, and life was passing by. I was doing 12, 15-hour days, and I would come home, I would sleep. I'd wake up, and I'd do it again. And something inside of me and I talked to my wife about it, and something inside of it was just like, you know what? Let's just do something different. And we decided to sell the house, sold the car, and then we've been traveling for like 5 months now. So
and how long was that process from like when you had that conversation with her to we got our plane ticket and we're going?
First of all, was she in on it from the very beginning?
Oh, she was the biggest advocate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My wife's like way
got
different
the travel
than
bug.
I am. Yeah, she's just a free bird. She's like one of the coolest people you'll ever meet in your life. But yeah, it was pretty rapid, right? And there wasn't a lot of planning involved. Now, don't get me wrong. I am in a financial situation to be able to do it, right? And I always say that to everybody. I preface that. I'm not living in a van. You know what I mean? So there was obviously some calculations that needed to be done, projections that needed to be done. I'm a business-minded person, as you guys can probably tell from my entrepreneurial background. So before any sort of ticket was purchased, to use your terms, it was really about, hey, are we going to survive?
Yeah.
Are we going to be okay? We have a kid. And I remember what my wife told me. She's like, I'll never forget it. It changed my life. She's like, listen, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, you're going to ruin this family. And so we gotta, she knows me, I don't know how you guys are, but like, if I'm not happy, I bring it home. It's unfortunate. You know what I mean? And she's like, so let's just do something that we all love to do, and we'll figure it out later. That's how she always like, we'll figure it out later.
She's a free spirit. Like, she doesn't have a care in the world.
I'm like counting how many tortillas we each have to see how many tacos we're going to split on the dinner table. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that last one is yours, but can I have it? She's like, what do you mean it's mine? I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, you start off by saying, you know what was it that triggered the thought to do this?
Okay, so I've been asking myself this question over the last 6 to 8 months, and the two questions. And if I don't answer yes to both of them, I don't do it anymore. The first question is, will my younger self be proud? Will that 5-year-old Michael, if he saw me today, I'm getting chills right now when I think about it, to be honest with you, because I live by it now. It's my philosophy. That 5-year-old Michael look up and say, man, you did it. You did a good job, dude. And my second question is, will my future self be thankful? Right? This idea of me on my deathbed saying to myself and saying, hey, you lived can I cuss? I'm sorry. You lived a fucking good life. You know what I mean, man? Good job on you.
Experiences.
Right? And so, like, we were collecting so many possessions instead of experiences, instead of memories. Right? And that was kind of like this catalyst for me to say, fuck it. Like, we live on this earth. This is the existential part. I don't want to get too deep into it. But, like, we're on this floating rock in the middle of this freaking universe, moving like billions of miles per hour in an ever-expanding universe, mind you, okay? And there's more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the planet. And I'm sitting here, like, working 12-hour days. Like, what? I need to go see things and, like, eat cool food and, like, meet new people and embrace new cultures. So, long-winded way of saying that's how it started.
Wow.
And so for somebody that wants to do this or has been thinking about it, and everybody probably comes to you saying, wow, look, I would love to do this, but I can't do it, or that's just not real for me, or, whatever the excuse is, what advice would you give? Like, what would be a reasonable, like, you didn't plan this out. It's not like you planned it out 5 years ago, say, we're going to do this, we're going to build up this much, and then we're going to go, right? So somebody that is like, it just doesn't feel real for them. What advice would you give them to make it sort of real and tangible?
So it's interesting you say that, because since I've been back in Toronto, obviously I have a vast network in Toronto. I lived here for 13 years. Everyone asks kind of a similar version of that question, right? And I always say that based on my kind of research or whatever the terminology is for traveling for the last 5 months, there are 3 things that if you're doing only one of those 3 things, you can do what I'm doing right now. 1, a trade. I don't care if you're a plumber, an electrician, a server, a bartender, whatever that may be. You can go live anywhere, man. You can go and do it anywhere you want to do it.
Because everywhere needs these type of people, right?
2, you have some sort of digital nomad, I guess they're calling it nowadays, some sort of career or job that you can work from behind your computer, and you don't have to be in an office. And thank God for COVID for allowing that to open our minds up.
For a lot of people.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it changed people's lives. And then 3, having some sort of passive income, kind of like what I do. I dabble in entrepreneurship as of right now, but as of right now, it's kind of just more passive income from like real estate or properties or whatever it may be, or you play in the market or whatever it may be.
Right.
And so if you have at least one of those 3 things, you can do that. And the only thing that's holding back is fear, right? We live, especially in North America, we live in this cutthroat society of like, if I'm not working, I'm not productive. If I don't make that, I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have either, by the way. I meet people with hundreds of millions, and I meet people that are month to month. They still feel like, oh, I can't pay that bill, because that monthly fixed costs, they go up. I meet guys that have maybe $50,000 fixed costs a month.
That's insane.
And they're saying, I can't travel. I can't go to Italy. We have $50,000. Yeah. Your costs are $50,000 a month. You can't take a week off and like go sit in St. Bart's for a week or something. Like, just go see people.
Yeah, well, I think some of that is like, especially with TikTok over the last 2 years and everybody being at home and trying to find that side hustle. There's now this thing of hustle porn It's like every time you open up a TikTok or a social media app and it's like, here's how you can make $500 extra a week, or I'm going to help you become a millionaire. And that's all people see. And when they see that at some point, they become, it's almost demotivational. It has the opposite effect because they see all of this and they go, like, I can't do this. I got to worry about that next paycheck. I got to worry about working X amount. I don't have that luxury to go and start another business. That's nice. I see all of you influencers and all these people doing these things. That's great. I can't do that. And I think that a lot of people are stuck in that middle ground.
And so it's interesting you say that, because I think that one other thing that I've been thinking about continuously, and one of the big questions that came to my mind when I was making this decision was like, hey, I'm on this track my whole life. I'm like, at some point, I'm going to get that private jet. At some point, I'm going to get that $200 million yacht. I mean, that was my trajectory. That's what my brain was telling me my whole life, right? During this period, I have a child. My dad's retiring. He's like depressed that he's retiring. I'm like, things are like I'm like, what's happening here in life, right? And so I had to ask myself a very important question, right? Am I right now is where I stand, am I on the trajectory to get that private jet? Am I on the trajectory to get that yacht? Answer is no. Then let's kind of assess where that happiness threshold is, right? What is that little sweet spot for me? And so that was a tough conversation for me. I mean, I have a lot of conversations with people and they're like, what are you talking about, private jet? I'm like, that was literally
But that's a lot of self-awareness, because a lot of people, like, they have that dream, like, I want to be a billionaire, I want to be this. They don't really know what it takes
for it.
Yeah, they don't know what it takes to do that. I want to own this team. I want to do that. I want to buy this or have a yacht and jet. But you made it real. You're like, okay, what does it take to get there? What are the guys and gals doing that are there?
And do I want to do that?
Do I want to do that? And am I even close
to worth the sacrifices?
And so, like, when I found out my happiness threshold, again, I the terminologies I'm utilizing this is all fresh to me. This is over the last couple of months, so I don't have to verbalize it in such an eloquent way. But when I figured out my happiness threshold, I'm like, okay, I know that, like, if I go somewhere, I want to be in, like, at least a relatively nice house. I want to have a nice view, and I want to go to restaurants on the weekends, like when I'm traveling, right? Those are the things that I need. So when I'm doing those numbers, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do it. I can hit every one of those things, right? And so that's me, though, right? That might be different for you. That might be different for you. And I don't think that traveling is necessarily the end-all, be-all, right? It's finding out, that's the end-all, be-all. Finding out what that happiness threshold is. Are you cool in that condo? Are you cool in that van? I mean, people are doing van lives now like crazy, right? Yeah. What is that? Find out what that is. Have deep conversations with yourself. Understand where you are truly happy, and then just go live that, because ambition is great. I'm not saying let's kill ambition. I'm just saying that at some point, ambition turns into something that overtakes your entire life. And then you forget to live. And then you're 40 and 50 years old and you're looking back and you say, man, I've been grinding because I think I want to be here, but I'm totally cool being over here.
Yeah. Or I'm like, I'll be happy when I get there. I'll enjoy life when I get there, instead of enjoying, the adventure to get there and the happiness, like, day by day. And I'm starting to think about that a lot too. And it took me a while to really get that, of like, oh, now I understand why people, the saying of the cliche of, like, it's not the journey, is happiness is, like, the day by day. Like, if you're happy every day,
the journey is the most important part of it all.
Yeah. If you're enjoying the journey, then you're always going to be happy. You're not waiting for some end result or some end goal, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think that, people, like, your TikTok did so well and people sort of relate to you, and why did it blow up? Like, why do you think it blew up like it did?
I mean, I don't really know. I think
just bring the little closer to you.
I mean, I think I do have a sense of charisma. I see it in my everyday life. I'm pretty self-aware of that. When I walk into a room, I can become friends with anybody. I don't really care if you're the busboy or, you're Jeff Bezos. Like, I can talk to somebody, right? And I can see everything. We can be on the same level and we can talk about life, right? And so I brought that same kind of charisma to the TikTok, in the sense of, like, let me just be myself. I saw this one really great piece of advice for content production, especially if you're kind of creating content yourself as an influencer, tastemaker, or whatever it is. And it was, be the content, right?
I like that.
If you're the content, guess what? People come and they want to listen to Samir, right? They don't care where Samir is.
Right.
They just want to hear Samir, And so I was like, hey, pretty cool. I have a lot of great friends, and I can walk into a restaurant and become friends with everybody in the room. Why not just bring that same personality to the TikTok?
And that's why you think that the response has been so well, just because it's authentic. It's just you. It's, you know, you don't know, it's you being you kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I've been like, I don't want to say this out loud, but I mean, a lot of people have been saying like they're comparing me to like the Anthony Bourdain of TikTok, and I'm like, whoa, bro, like that guy's God. Okay, like let's not.
Are you a big fan?
Yeah, a huge fan. And I'm
Who
like,
isn't?
And it's like, don't. First of all, thank you for saying it, but like, that's not what I'm trying to say. But I asked my wife to have kind of a reality check on it, and she's like, well, listen, he had charisma. He really liked, you know, experiencing new cultures. He didn't care. He could eat anything. He would experience anything. And, you know, he had a good gift of gab. I mean, he had a really great sense on how he spoke very eloquently. You have those things. But you're not Anthony Bourdain, so shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Gotta keep you grounded.
And would you call yourself influencer, content creator, like, or just you being you and just like enjoying your life and documenting it? Because it's a lot of work to do that, isn't it?
It's a lot of work for sure. I mean, I'll answer your first question first. I'm not a big fan. In this stage of my life, I'm not a big fan of labels. They kind of like, I don't know, they put people in boxes for no reason. It's like, you're this and you're that. And I'm like, I'm just Michael, dude. Like, I'm just like, I want to eat some cool food. I want to travel the world, and I want to share it with the world. You know what I mean? And I think the word influencer has changed so much over the times, you know? And like, I think it's almost been diluted in the sense because people were so money hungry that they were just attaching themselves to any brand for a couple zeros in their account. And like, we have this discussion all the time. It's like, I don't want to work with any brand unless I use it every day in my life.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to go and get, oh, someone wants to pay me $5-10 grand for this pair of jeans. And I'm like, I would never wear those jeans. Guess what? I'm not doing it. You know?
So food seems to be a very big part of your life. And you had that stint on MasterChef Canada. You had...
I think you finished, what? You were one of the finalists, no?
6th place. It's not very good.
Hey, listen,
I was joking with it.
Hold on, that's still pretty... okay, so I'll still say 6th place is still a lot further than a lot of people who are just trying to get on the show.
I was just trying to say that it's not just a stint. A little more than a stint, but... yeah.
Okay, maybe stint wasn't the right word. But the point is, you did that. You had the cutting board experiment, the project that you built out there. What is it about food particularly that just resonates with you? Because food is a language in and of itself. It's how people communicate with each other. It's how they bond with each other. Every time you want to hang out with someone, you go on a first date with someone, it's generally over food. Food plays such an important role in how we interact with each other. If we were sitting here and we had something to snack on and it wouldn't be terrible for the mic, we'd probably be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking bread.
Breaking bread, yeah. So
just put that together, by the
way. So how does that, like, where does food come into this equation for you? Because the traveling component you've referenced, you know, you want to eat at certain restaurants, you want to try different foods. Obviously Anthony Bourdain is an influence by the sounds of it.
Yeah, big time.
And food, big part of him, who he is, who he stood for. Where does that fit in for you?
So, interestingly enough, I'll take you guys back because I don't think it's like, I don't want to give some romantic story. I'm just going to give you guys the real deal. Real deal. You know, I don't want to give some romantic story, but you know, originally when I left LA, I grew up in LA. So I left LA when I was like 17, 18 years old, and I came to Toronto. And my dad was here at the time. He ended up leaving after a year. So, and I ended up staying. And so I didn't have money, you know what I mean? And so I had to learn how to cook. I like good food, you know what I mean? And I have nobody around, I have no family, I have nothing. And so I just started cooking every night, and I just learned how to cook. And I'm like, man, this is so cool. Then I started having dinner parties, and then that kind of gradually turned into like really extravagant dinner parties, you know. And then all of a sudden I'm a master chef. And then all of a sudden I invented the ultimate cutting board, and it's like, okay, well, there's something really cool about this. Not only because I'm passionate about it, but more so, what I realized was, to your point, it's just something so amazing about community and culture that comes around food. I think you said it best. I was nodding my head like crazy. It's like, it's a language.
Mm.
You know, they talk about love languages. Mine's food. You know, I don't know if that's actually one of them, but that is me.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, well, it should be. But the point is, like, when I go to these different places, I want to go and eat what they're eating.
Mm.
You know, I travel with some people and they're like, let's go get a steak. And I'm like, dude, we're like in Greece. They don't even have cows here. Like, I don't like, like what are you doing, bro?
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, they have it, but it's not like what they're known for,
No,
right?
yeah,
That's
you're not
pig
going to
and
Greece.
lamb and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or seafood, right? Yeah. And so embracing the different cultures and understanding them through their food is big. I mean, food was always big when we were growing up too. I'm Persian, right? It was,
Big part of the culture.
it was just massive.
Yeah.
Like, or go to my grandma. I mean, my grandma is like almost, I think she's over 90 years old. She's still like cooking tahdig and rice and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can't even get out of the couch right now. And like, this woman is like flipping rice.
Oh, that's awesome. Where are some of the best places you've traveled to?
Oof, that's hard. You know, it's interesting because what I've realized is that like traveling to different places, it's like almost like having like 5 suits or 6 suits in your closet, right? It's like they're all your favorite suits. They're all just different colors for different occasions, right? So it's like people are like, what's a favorite place to go? I'm like, I can't answer that because everything is its own experience, right? I'm in Greece hanging out with a grandfather and a grandmother and her daughter, and they're cooking me lamb, and we're having parties, singing Greek music and throwing plates on the ground, right? True story, by the way. Never met these people in my life. Then I'm in Italy, and I'm like hanging out with this guy named Adriano, who I actually rented the villa from, and he's taking me around town. We're going to get pizza, we're getting pasta. He's like, let's jump in the boat. We're on the Amalfi Coast. Let's go to the beach. I mean, that's like a whole experience in itself, right? Mm-hmm. I'm in Portugal, and I'm hanging out with the waiters and waitresses out there because there was a restaurant right across from our house. And I became a regular over there within like 2 days. The first day I went there, he was like, hey, hello, how are you? And I'm like, great, I'm going to see you. I'm like, listen, I'm going to be here for a month. You're going to see me every day, okay? We're going to become very good friends, and we're going to probably have drinks at some point in the next week or so. He's like, okay. What? This guy's weird.
As long as the tips keep coming.
You know, exactly, right? And that's what happened. I mean, we became friends. We went partying together. We did things together, you know? It's funny you say that because I've always been a regular at some bar, okay? Multiple bars at times, right? Or restaurants or whatever they may be. And my wife, when she was putting herself through school, was a server. And so she was like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a regular at this bar. She's like, you're like, what'd you say? I'm like, I'm a regular at this bar. I'm like, yeah, a lot of my friends actually work there. They're like, she's like, those aren't your friends. She's like, we hate regulars.
And that was the beginning of his first existential crisis.
But jokes aside, I mean, she got to know that I was actually really good friends with these people. I mean, come back 20 years, 15 years later, I was texting some of them today, multiple of them today, like, hey, we're going to go grab some food at his house or my house or whatever. And she's like, I could never hang out with a regular. And like, she sees me interacting with these people like we're really friends, you know?
Yeah. So what do you think you learned most about, like, what did you biggest lesson you learned about yourself when traveling and having that like time and space to really get to know you, because you're not around anybody, it's just you, your wife, and your kid, of course, but I'm sure you're just, you know, thinking a lot and just sort of like
There's a lot of reflection.
a lot of reflection. So what did you learn? Like, what was the biggest lesson so far that you've learned? Or about yourself?
So many, man, but I think the biggest one for me was it's okay to redefine who you are at any moment you want to. That to me, when I was like thinking about it, and the way that I came to that conclusion was I'm sitting there and I'm not doing anything. I'm in like the south of Portugal, you know, in this beautiful villa looking off to the most beautiful water you could ever see. And I was having a hard time not working, right? I'm like, let me just take a break. Let me just take a little break, whatever it is. I don't care if it's 9 to 5 or entrepreneur, whatever it is. And I was like unhappy. And I was like, why am I unhappy? As I've defined myself as this person who works 10-hour days, right? And I had to take a step back and say, dude, chill. It's okay. You worked very hard for a very long period of time. Don't allow these societal norms or whatever society tries to place us in dictate your happiness. And so from that moment, I was like, it was a moment for me, right? It was this kind of like pivotal perspective that I was changing in my mind, like where I was like, okay, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna go swimming, then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna eat lunch, then I'm gonna go take a nap, then I'm gonna drink some wine, and then I'm gonna go take another nap, then I'm gonna go eat some food, and I'm gonna be okay with that, right? And it sounds kind of like audacious and stuff like that and kind of pompous in a way, but it's a real thing. I feel like we're all kind of stuck in this grind at all times. And it's like, you can say, hey, tomorrow I want to be an entrepreneur. Tomorrow I want to be a server. Tomorrow I want to be a plumber. Tomorrow I want to be happy. Tomorrow I don't want to be. Whatever it may be, whatever makes you happy should be your end all be all.
Mm-hmm. And would you say like do you still have that entrepreneurial spirit? Are you still thinking about new business ideas, new real estate opportunities, like, or have you kind of shut that off?
All the time.
I mean, you can't just turn that off.
Yeah, when you have that bug, and it's actually harder to turn it off than turn it on. In my case, right? Because I'm continuously thinking, and I'm that annoying guy. Like this guy's like comes out with this really cool, I don't know, like blazer or fish or something like. Or limoncello or something. No, this guy had like really great tuna, right? And I'm like, oh, how do we get this in the States? I can fix some importing it for you. He's like, dude, like, I just want to serve some fish in my restaurant, you know?
Just
or like the limoncello guy, right? The limoncello guy was this awesome dude. He's making limoncello for his family and also a lot of Italy too. And I'm like, yo, listen, my non-compete's ending in a couple years. Let's bring this into the U.S. And he's like, well, how many cases? I'm like, we should probably like shoot for like 50,000 cases. He's like, bro. These are my lemons. He's like, you're looking at my lemons right now. Okay, I don't have enough for this.
Well, listen, you got a few years until my non-compete ends.
This is my warehouse, this lemon tree.
Yeah, but you know what? It was like interesting to kind of see their reactions too, where it's like that whole Chinese fisherman proverb. I don't know if you guys have heard it. I'm going to bastardize it, but like I'll put it in a nutshell. This also kind of like made me kind of reflect on my own life. You know, foreigner comes into this small Chinese village. And the Chinese fisherman is bringing fish back to his house, and he gives some to the foreigner. Again, I'm bastardizing. I apologize, and you guys should go read it. And then he brings it back, and the foreigner says, "Man, this is the best fish I've ever had. What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I just fish for a couple myself and for my family and my brother, and I do it every morning, and then I come back and I just rinse and repeat this every single day. And I read a book, and I hang out with my family, and we eat fish." And he goes, well, listen, this is the best fish I've ever had. I think we should start exporting this. And he goes, to do what? He said, well, to start a company. And he goes, okay, to do what then? And he goes, well, it's going to become massive. It's going to be worth millions and millions of dollars. And he goes, okay, then what? So then we're going to go public. And this thing is going to be huge. And he goes, then what? And then he's going to, and he's like, then what? And he goes, then you're just going to be able to just chill out and go fishing and hang out with your brother.
Just everything he's already
doing it. That's crazy. You know?
That's like such an interesting way to look at it.
That's a perspective thing.
Right?
That's definitely a perspective thing.
But do you think people don't take the time to actually sit down and think like, okay, then what? Then what? Like those are powerful questions. It's like
it usually ends after I can make so much money. How do I make all this money?
And then, but exactly, what's the end goal? Why do you want to make so much money? Like, it's usually because of freedom. You want freedom, or you want to hang out with your family, or be able to do things. You know what I mean? It just comes down to such a simple thing.
Well, that goes back to that whole happiness threshold, right? Find out where that is. I mean, if you're going to be like suicidal because you don't have a yacht, guess what, bro? Go get on that horse and figure out what the hell you need to do to get that yacht, okay? Because no one wants you to die, you know? And then it goes back to that whole happiness study. I can't remember the reference, but like, there was that study where it was like this scale of happiness from like 1 to 100 or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, hey, if you have a roof over your head to compare to the person who doesn't have a roof over their head, your happiness level is exponentially higher, okay? Like a massive, massive amount. From the guy who has or woman that has the roof over their head to the guy who's driving the Ferrari is like nominal happiness increase.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
That's crazy.
Because we see the flash, we get distracted by shiny way too easily. We see shiny and we're like, I want. How do I get it? What am I sacrificing? And then we sacrifice things that we should not be sacrificing to get that nominal increase in happiness.
I mean, think about my dad, right? This is all happening when my child was being born. My dad worked. He's a private banker, very successful individual, working with very high net worth individuals for his whole entire life. worked till he was about 65, 70 years old. This last little bit, I don't know how old he is. I apologize about that. But
Sorry, Dad.
I was going around telling people he was 80, and then I was doing the math, and I was like, yeah, he's not 80 years old. That's what he had when he was 50. So I think he's like 65 or something. And then he retires. Like, this is a normal way of life, right? You work till you're 65, you retire. He retires, and he's like, I don't know what to do with my days. Like, he just doesn't understand what to do. It took him like almost a year and a half to get into his own. Like, hey, I'm going to go walk on the beach for a couple hours and not do anything. He can't fathom it, right? And so it's like, how do we figure out what that is and how do we get it? That is the happiness.
Right.
So would you say for, someone starting a business or some younger entrepreneurs out there, like, is that the first step to figure out, like, it's not, because people get into entrepreneurship or business and, it's so cool these days, obviously, and it's so easy with, with digital and social and all the tools at our disposal. How should someone look at it? Like, what would be your advice to, if you're just starting a business, what would you say to, like, how do you think about it?
So I think it's kind of like, there's a little bit of disassociation happening and probably a little bit of contradiction, if I'll be honest with myself, right? If you're starting a business and you're going to put yourself through that rigmarole, just understand that you're about to go through something, okay? Like, you thought being birthed out of your mother's vagina was probably painful. Like, this is, like, I'm just saying, like, they say that's the most traumatic experience of anyone's life, which is probably true.
Which is why we don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. We just carry the trauma with us. That's why men are all assholes, too. Like, I hate the woman. But starting a business is not for the faint of heart. I mean, we all know that. I mean, it's hard, dude. And so, first of all, understand that you have to love it. And guess what? If you love it, that makes you happy.
You got to love it when it's not working.
Yeah. And if you do love it, that makes you happy. So you're cool. You get what I mean? Like, that's okay. But also, that goes back to that redefining thing, right? Allow yourself to kind of step back and say, this doesn't make me happy anymore.
Yeah.
So when do you know to, like, cut your losses and move on, or am I giving up too soon? Because, I believe if you don't give up, if you don't quit and give up, you won't fail, right? You just keep going at it. But when is it just a bad opportunity, like, how do you know that of, like, I've given this all I can, it's time to switch gears and change my mind and go in a different direction?
From a business perspective.
From a business perspective.
I mean, it's a great question, right? I think giving yourself some sort of
it could be life perspective too, by the way, of, like, I thought this is how I wanted to live, but now I changed my mind, it's not working, and kind of pivot, right?
Well, honestly, I mean, I think that everything needs a little bit of time, right? We're talking about everything about life and business and everything in a 1 hour. Is this a 1 hour? I don't know how long this is. What is?
We'll go.
We go forever. Okay, so whatever. At this time period.
What time is it in Italy?
Exactly. But my point is, like, we're jamming all this information into a very small period of time. But in reality, like, you have to give yourself the period, at least some sort of time period, to allow yourself to fail or succeed, right? Like, you're starting a business. If you're not successful in 2 or 3 months, 6 months, even a year, it's okay. But I think the most important thing to ensure, I don't care what business it is, what you're starting, if you start sacrificing you or your family's livelihood, you can't put food on the table, you got to stop. Like, I put that stuff first.
As you should.
Right?
Especially when you have a family, a young family.
Yeah, I mean, you see it on I love the show Shark Tank. Sometimes their advice is kind of bonkers, but sometimes it's like, this guy is, like, coming on there. He's been working at us for 10 years. He's making like 50 grand a year. It's like, bro, stop. Okay. Like, your kid needs to go to school. You need to put him, you have to have food on your table. Right. So I think go as long as you can until you get to that point, really. Or you get sick of it, right?
Well, at some point, you're going to have to actually do some self-reflection and really take stock of where you're at with your business or your product, right? Like, it's kind of like to the point where you mentioned of, well, where do you draw that line? And I think you can't, you almost have to have a level of denial or this, like, massive amounts of belief in your product or your project or your business to get it to where it needs to get to. You have to be like the biggest advocate. But at the same time, you have to know when to check yourself and go, you know what? This is not what I thought it was. It's not going where I need it to go. And timing is also everything. Sometimes it's just not right product, not the right time.
Well, it's that luck factor, right?
There's that too, right? That's the one thing you can't account for.
Do you have someone or a group of guys or a mentor that you go to for business advice? Like, where do you get your advice from?
I have a pretty cool circle, you know, like they're kind of like in these rings of like a tree, right? It's like some people I'm very close to, and some people I'm like not so close to, and some people I'm really not close to, but I always have an interaction with them when I need to, or they need me, right? So specific people for specific things, but then obviously I have a confidants, right? Like individuals that I need to bounce ideas off of, or just talk through, or if I'm sad, or if I'm depressed, or if I'm happy, right? And I think it's important to be able to have that group. You know, I'm a big believer. We're getting kind of into the relationship topics. I'm taking it there, and I apologize, but
nope. This is actually what we want to cover. Like, we want to have these conversations. We want to know from that perspective, that lens. So please share away.
Because, you know, one thing that I have a lot of discussions with certain individuals that are married or have girlfriends or whatever it may be, or boyfriends, I see a lot of individuals that are kind of becoming one. They're becoming the same person. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they share their passwords together. Or they have like tracking on their phones, and like, oh, he's almost home, you know, or she's almost home. Like, what is going on here, bro? Like, this makes me uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Like, I until this day, I think almost up until like 2 years ago, we've been together for almost 10 years now. I didn't even have her password to her phone. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't need
and you didn't even care. You didn't.
And I'm like trying to dovetail back into that last thing is like that. Those people that are around you that are outside of your relationship or your significant other are important. Or, hey, I need to like talk to this individual about like business and stuff like that. Maybe that's something I don't want to talk to my wife about, right? And I think it's important to have your own individual, right? Like you're your own individual.
Yeah, and your own group of people that you can turn to.
Yeah, like be your own self, right? And that comes with the people that you surround yourself with. I'm going in this weird zigzaggy way, but that goes back to your original question, where it's like those people that you're your friends, your brothers, your cousins, whatever it is, that's kind of your identity, right? Yeah. And you should hold on to that as much as you can. Like my wife has her own group of friends. I have my own group of friends. Sometimes we meet up together. Sometimes we don't. Like the last 4 months, we didn't spend one day apart. You know what I mean? I got over here and I'm like, I'm gonna go hang out, and she's like, by all means.
But do you find like, were you getting sick of each other, or was it just, were you know, what was that experience like? You know,
I never get sick of her because you talk about luck. I lucked out with this woman. I don't know what I did in my past life. I have no clue. Okay. But she is God sent. I don't even believe in God. So it's like, I don't know what, she came from somewhere. Point is,
from the cosmos.
Yeah, exactly. From the Big Bang. Yeah. But no, it's not about being sick of each other, because even right now, like the last couple of nights I've been in hotels, she's been with the kid with my in-laws. We've been doing some content production for some really cool hotels, and I'm messaging on, I miss you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to say. Like sometimes what we do when we travel, it's really cool. And I urge everyone to do this, especially if you're traveling for like an extended period, even if you're not, honestly, is we have solo days.
Okay.
So it's like she does whatever, and I go do whatever, and then we like compare notes at the end of the day. Like, what did you do? Half the time, like I'm like having like martinis like on the side of Positano, and I looked at the videos of what she did, and she's like in caves and stuff like that. I'm like, what the hell? I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to like go in a cave right now. I don't want to hang out. I want to have like some great pasta and some martinis and Negronis, man.
Yeah. And what I love about your, you know, we hung out the other night, and what I love about your relationship is there's so much sense of adventure. You still like, you should see how they talk to each other sometimes. It's like, is this like their third date, second date? Like, what's going on here? Like, funny. He does not treat her any differently. If she's like if she says something silly, he'll make it like, that was silly. Like, it's just so refreshing, because it's like, it isn't defined. It's like they're just having fun, and the adventure, I'm sure, helps a lot. Like,
I think it's all in your daily life, honestly. Like last night we were out at my buddy's new club, Saluna, on Queen West, which is just absolutely fantastic. And she was coming from Aurora, right? And I was already downtown. And she walked into the room, and I'm like having like flashbacks of like when we first met in Toronto, and she looks so freaking beautiful in this dress, and she's walking through the room, and I'm like, this is my wife. I'm like checking myself, like, is my hair okay?
How do I look?
That's so awesome, though.
Yeah,
That's
that
such
is.
a, like a healthy thought pattern.
I mean, like, I think the thing that stands out there is that you like her.
Oh my God. We talked about that the other day.
You have to
Yes.
like the person.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting thing of like, or you've been friends with someone so long, so you love them like a brother or sister or whatever, but then you're like,
There's times where you don't
if
like
I met
them.
you today,
Yeah.
would I want to hang out with you? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
But that's why it's super important, especially in a relationship, that you like the person that you're with, because you have to actually live with them. In our earlier episode, we were talking about how love, for example, will only get you to the altar. Everything else happens after the fact is work and commitment, but none of that matters if you don't actually like the person. You know, like under
love
any
that,
other
yeah.
circumstances, would this be a person you want to be around? If you didn't have the emotional attachments, the kid, the history, all these things, you look at this person in isolation of all of that and go, do I even like you as a person? And I think that is evident in your case, that you guys actually still like each other, which is a really, really big and important thing that gets lost in a lot of relationships, I find.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that. I mean, I meet a lot of people like that. Obviously, I meet a lot of people just because of just who I am. But I see some people and I'm like, you don't like her, do you? Or you don't like him, do you? He seems like an asshole. And he's like, we're fine, we're comfortable. I don't want to rock
They get
the
complacent, yeah.
boat. Yeah,
And that
crazy.
some of that is also just because of fear of the unknown, right?
Yes.
Like if I'm in a relationship with someone and I accept the fact that I don't like this person, or things are not where I want to be, I'm not as happy as I could be, I'm not taking stock of where my happiness is, that younger version of me, to steal your words, would not be proud of what I'm doing right now. Future me would not be thanking me for the
Mhm.
decisions I'm making
That's
today.
a powerful statement, by the way. That's a
Yeah, I
good way
love
to look
that.
at
I'm going to
things.
steal that.
Yeah.
They don't want to rock the boat, and then they end up in these unhappy relationships, and it just eats away at them, and then it just never changes, and then it bleeds into everything else they do, their other friendships, their goals and their ambitions, their career. They don't start that business because they're just so deeply unhappy with everything else. And it all starts with that person that you go home to, because they can either make your day, they can break your day, they can push you when you need to be pushed, or they can drag you all the way down. And having a relationship where you like the person, I think, is where it all should start.
So everything you said, 100% agree on. I'm just going to alter one thing, in my opinion. It all starts with the relationship with yourself.
Yes,
Right?
you're right.
Like everything that you said, I was like relating to myself, right? Like, am I doing right by myself? Am I a person that I think I would like? You know what I mean? Am I, you said like that sense of fear, right? We talked about it earlier, where it's like, I was saying that, hey, people have this fear of not being able to do the things they want to do because they're in the grind or they're worried, right? Like, I feel like everybody should, and this is all to the single people. I mean, me and you are single. This guy is perpetually single. So it's like, listen, we're envious of you, by the way. Let's just point that out there, okay? I tell my wife all the time, I'm vicariously living through Amy. I'm just like,
The grass is always greener, my friends.
Listen, the grass is green where you wet it.
There you go.
whoa.
Getting deep, Samir. We're getting deep.
That was that was a big one. I'm gonna steal that one.
Go for it.
But my point is, like, when we have discussions, it's like, dude, you gotta be happy with yourself. Then you can start adding people to your life. You know what I mean?
It's funny. We were talking a little bit earlier. There was a period of time for me in March 2020 when COVID like locked everything down. I had just split up with my ex, and I had to learn to figure out who I was. My entire identity, that idea of like two people becoming one, that was me. My entire identity was tied to my relationship. My friends were her friends. My identity was her identity. My likes and dislikes were her likes and dislikes. And when I started to shift away from that, I started to realize that there was fundamental differences in that relationship that were just being buried for so long. And then having to sort of live by yourself and figure all that out, that sort of deep dive of, do I like who I am? Is the younger version proud of where I am today? And the answer to those questions were no.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, without knowing this sort of like analogy or ethos, I was asking myself, how do I become the man that I want to be? And that took a lot of work. That took a lot of conversations and like pulling crap out. And
Internal conversations.
Internal.
Too, yeah.
A lot of looking in the mirror and realizing, I don't like who I am. I don't like who I was. I don't like where I'm going. I need to chart a whole new path. And it was so uncomfortable.
And that comes back to that redefining, right?
Exactly.
Allow yourself to redefine.
And the fear of doing it was paralyzing for so long. And I remember, and it's funny that we're talking about entrepreneurial mindsets and all those things. I remember for so long in my life, I used to look at people in my circle who had the entrepreneurial spirit. I used to look at you guys, for example, and be like, wow, it's so cool that you guys do all these things. And I'm like, I don't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. And I realized that after charting my own path and allowing my brain to start going, okay, start looking at things from that perspective, I'm kind of now in the same boat where everything I look at is like, okay, how can we monetize this? How can I turn this into a business, right? And it becomes very intoxicating, and it becomes a bug in and of itself where you're just like, I want to do everything.
Yeah.
I personally struggle with, I try to do so much. I work, I wake up and I work all the way till it's dark out, and then I'm still working. And then I'm like finding ways to maximize my time, where it's like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe when I go to the gym, maybe I don't go for a jog. Instead, I go on the bike. That way I can do emails while I'm on the bike. And it's just like finding more ways, and it's not healthy. So,
I mean, I lost you at like bike and jogging. I don't know.
He doesn't know these.
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
Listen.
No, but seriously, I keep going.
yeah, no, but it's one of those things where I spend so much of my time trying to maximize every ounce of the day, squeeze every ounce of it, that I sometimes forget to take a moment and go, look at how far I've come in the last 2 years from where I was. That one guy sitting on the floor in the corner of his condo, afraid of the size of his condo. And it's a condo in Toronto. Let's be real. It's not that big. But just looking at it and feeling overwhelmed by it all, and then looking at where I am at today and going, anything is doable. You can conquer anything if you redefine who you are and then clearly define where you want to go. You understand your why, to your point. So that definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is, sometimes when I come across, it's like my definition of happiness is different than yours and yours, right? So it's like that has to be number one, right? If getting up at 6 a.m. and going, I mean, he calls me at like 6 a.m. He's like, I'll be done with the gym and he's texting me like 6 a.m. I'm gonna be done with the gym in 30 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about right now? Like, I'm up at like 6 a.m., but I'm not like going to the gym, dude. I'm like doing emails from my bed. Okay? And I'm like, feel productive too, by the way. I'm like, oh, look at this. I jammed out a couple emails right now. Like,
The day's done. Where's that martini?
So the point is, like, if those are the things, all I'm asking for everyone to do is just ask those questions from themselves, right? Like, if those are the things, those things that you just labeled throughout your day that you're trying to squeeze every little last bit out of it, if those are the things that make you happy, then keep doing them, right? But if one of those things is off, let's stop. There's an organization app that I've been using called Sunsama, and it's very interesting because I don't know if it works very well for corporate. I don't know. It's not like, Asana or Slack or something. I don't personally think, but I'm not obviously too versed in it. I've only been using it for 2 or 3 months. But they have these different channels, almost like Slack as well, right? Where you can kind of, and I put all my different businesses, real estate or whatever I'm working on, blah, 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 into it, and personal as well too, right? And then for the whole day, I'll program the whole day and on. And there's a lot of cool features, but I don't have to get into all of it. The big thing is that at the end of the day, you do a wrap up, okay? And you can say, and then you say how long it took you to do each one of those tasks. And then at the end of the week and the end of the month, it calculates how much time you spent on each channel.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
So it's like, then I look at the end of the month and I say, well, I spent a lot of time on this, this, and this, and it made me zero money. And I spent very little time on this, this, and this, and it made me a lot of money. Or I spent so much on my own personal, but I was super happy, or whatever it may be, right? Then I double down on that. It's like gas and fire. I'm a big advocate of fire and gas, right? I don't know if you guys know the analogy, right? You start a business, whatever it may be, personal or business. Let's use business for the sake of this conversation. You crack the code, you have a fire now, right? Guess what? Now all you need is money. That's gas.
Yeah.
And you just dump it.
I
That's how
like
you
that
scale
analogy.
business.
What's the app called?
Sansama.
Okay. I've been dabbling in Notion and
I use Notion too. I before I use Sansama.
Yeah.
It's a little bit less organized for me, but
I struggle with that because I'm trying to run multiple businesses off, and I use Notion for that, plus my personal. And then at the same time, I'm just like, there's too much going on, and I can't seem to. I'm a very visual person, so if I can't visually line them up and then see what am I working
that's how
on,
it is. Yeah.
it messes.
And
with
then
me.
you can like throw it off to the next. Oh, at the beginning of the day, it asks you, "Hey, does all this need to happen today, or can
Really?
you throw it to the next day?"
and it just moves it over.
And you move it.
It gives
That's
you the
pretty
option
cool.
to like
I like that.
prioritize.
Yeah, and at the end of
cool.
the day, or the next day, you started said, "What did you not get done?"
Okay.
And then it pushes you to the same day.
I
So like you
that.
wake up and you didn't get 3 things done, it automatically goes to the next day. Then it asks you, "Does it need to happen today?" Or one of the cool things was, these guys need to pay me, by the way. What the hell am I? What is this?
I thought this was a sponsored
No,
segment
this is
for a
not
moment.
sponsored, dude. Okay, like Sansama, call me, dude. The CEO's
Call
a pretty
Gents
cool
post
dude. I
first.
actually had an email back and forth with him too. I was like, you have a really cool product. I just reached out to him. I was like, you have a really cool
Again,
product.
a product that you believe in and use, and it's working for you, personal business, multiple
Yeah,
businesses.
I looked at his email. When I signed up, the CEO sends out emails, like these daily emails. I was like, I'm gonna respond to this. I just responded to him, like, I just want to let you know you have a really cool app. He responded. He's like, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
'Cause, it looks like spam, you know.
Yeah.
But it's helpful. But I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah. So where do people follow you, number one, and why would someone follow your journey on TikTok? Like, I've been following it myself, and it's kind of refreshing because you kind of, it's like, because I know you, maybe, I don't know if that's different, and it's like, it's like, wow, I'm talking to you on the phone and I'm seeing you doing this. I'm like, it's kind of cool. So, but why would someone want to follow you if they didn't know you, and what would they get out of it? Like, what are you trying to build there?
It sounds corny, but like, I don't really monetize. I mean, I'm not, as of right now, I'm not monetizing anything on that thing. So it's really just an organic kind of me sharing experiences with the world, as corny as that may sound.
It's your journey.
Yeah, it's my journey. It's like,
Come for
I
it,
started it as like kind of like a daily vlog for myself, like just like a daily diary of some sort, right?
But aren't you doing also a time capsule where every place you go, you're bearing a time capsule?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
For your daughter
I
to
saw that.
uncover.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
For her to uncover on her 18th birthday. Like, I get emotional when I just say those things
I know,
out
it's
loud.
pretty weird.
Crazy.
Tell us how that works.
Okay, so when we decided that we were going to travel, we were like, oh, this is going to be freaking awesome. But then we were like, damn, Penelope is not going to remember none of this. I'm like, it sucks for
Remember
her.
when you were here in Greece breaking glass?
No, I told her, I was like, I don't want to be one of those annoying parents where it was like, well, we took you around the world when you were 6 months old. You should be thankful for us for everything that we do for you. You know what I mean? And like, mom and dad, I don't remember any of that. Stop talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I thought of this cool idea of like burying time capsules in every country that we visit in a place that we like. And so during the whole month that we're there, we gather interesting things that remind us of whatever is happening throughout that period in our life or that month in our life. And sometimes just interesting things that are topical in daily life in general, right? Like in a couple of the first ones were like masks, right? Like
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the future, right? One of them was like headphones with wires. Like they're already
cool.
kind of obsolete, right?
Yep.
So I put that in there, you know? And so we put it in a wet bag, which a wet bag is like for like scuba diving and stuff or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we bury it, and then we take the geotag on Google or iMaps or whatever it is. And we take a video of where it is and like how many steps it is from this place or whatever it is. And we bury it. And then I'm putting it in my will and my trust in case I do pass early that these instructions will be given to her, and if not, hopefully when she's 18, she'll want to take us. That's what we keep joking about. Like, she's gonna want to go by herself. If she does, okay, but like that'd be great if we could go too. But what's really funny about that whole journey, the one thing I never imagined, again, not being an active person in any way, was digging these holes.
I was gonna say, would you do? Show up with a little mini shovel?
No, like I was like, one time I was like, okay, how are we gonna dig this thing? So I went and bought a shovel from like whatever the store was. Thing broke after like 3 scoops. I'm there with like a spoon and a knife, and like I'm like, has anyone seen me? You know what I mean? Like, this is taking way longer than I thought. Right? First of all, there is rocks. I know I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but like I'm just thinking. You see in the movies, we were digging, like they're burying bodies and stuff, like in 1 hour, right? I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fine. I'm digging. There's a rock. There's another rock. There's another rock. I'm like, this is insane, dude. Okay.
And it's just public like areas, and like you just go find a place.
Like when that one crazy guy just burying him, digging stuff in the middle of it.
Like, have you been stopped by like the local?
Usually we try to find somewhere like near the place that we're staying, so that hopefully she'll be able to stay there and get to know the family, because we get to know the families of all these places that we go. By the way,
that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice. That's
super
beautiful.
Cool, right?
Yeah. That's the best. That's the right way to travel.
So it's pretty interesting. We're always like, is this gonna, like, what's gonna happen? Like, my wife would leave like a dress. That she would wear throughout the month. Yeah. And she could wear. I left a shirt the other day. I left my wallet. I left a pair of sunglasses. Like, things that like I was using through that. Or like, even more cool is like tickets to that ferry, right? Or that receipt to that restaurant we all loved.
Yeah.
Right? Like things like, or like euros. Things,
that's very cool.
stuff like that,
That's really cool.
It's a very unique idea, very original.
Right?
I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that, but it just makes so much sense.
What a gift. Imagine on your 18th birthday getting that gift out of nowhere.
Like,
you've known your parents for 18 years and they didn't mention anything about this. And
unless she goes on like TikTok and like,
when she's 5.
What is this?
Can we go here?
Yeah, and it will be when she's like 3 years old. They're so close. But
well, listen, this is awesome. This is amazing. Thank you for coming here and sharing sort of your story, your journey, your insight, your butchered proverbs. Love it all. Appreciate it all. So what's going on next? You're here in town, and then what's next?
So I'm going to be in Toronto for another couple of days. I've been here for about a week, which I don't know where your audience is, if it's mostly Toronto. I do want to send a message to all Torontonians. Like, you guys have it good. This is a very, very good city to live in. I know that being in it and being in the rigmarole and, that whole kind of corporate mentality kind of gets the best of us. Or I hear people saying, like, people in Toronto aren't nice. And I'm like, dude, go to LA, bro.
Wasn't it your favorite, like most favorite culinary city?
I personally think it's the most underrated culinary city in the world.
Really?
Yeah. In my own humble opinion, I think people like to say, especially in North America, I think people like to say, first of all, is Mexico in North America or not? Because I thought it was in Central America. Okay, so see the word technically. Because everyone on my TikTok was like, he's going to Mexico City. And I'm like, Mexico City? I'm like, isn't that Central America?
That's Central.
Okay, yeah. But they also reference North America.
Well, they like, for example, even for the FIFA World Cup in 2026 or whatever it is, it's going to be in Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, and they're calling it North America.
So it's weird, right?
It is. It's
okay,
technically Central America. But then there's going to be somebody who does geography way better than any 3 of us ever could. And
we're going to get trolled.
Yeah, 100%.
So bring it on. But I actually do think that some of the best culinary experiences in the world are here. I mean, the food is fantastic. I mean, you can't go to a wrong restaurant around here. And especially like places like Bar Chef, for example, or Dilo, or any of the places that we've gone over the last little bit, they're just so good. But next, after that, we're going to go to LA. I got to go to Louisville. I got to go to Nashville. I got to go to San Diego. I got a couple weddings to go to. And then starting September 1, we're going to be off to Hawaii for about a month and a half. I got this really cool little cottage right on the water. It's beautiful. And then from there, we go to Guatemala.
Okay.
And then from Guatemala, which is this beautiful lake called Lake Atilan. Again, I'm butchering. This isn't like my thing. But it's this beautiful freshwater lake, a volcanic freshwater lake.
Wow.
It's very beautiful. It's 3 hours from Guatemala City. I mean, it's pretty unique. And then from there, we go to Barbados. And then from there, we're going to Colombia to spend Christmas with her family. She's Colombian. My wife's Colombian. And then
I didn't know that. I thought she was Persian.
No, she's Colombian.
Okay.
I'm scared of Persian women. My mom did a thing on
You just
me,
had to throw that in there.
It's just like two Michaels in a room is just not a good thing. You know what I mean? And then I think we're gonna go visit our friends in Turks and Caicos. And I don't know. From there, we don't know. I don't know if we're gonna buy a house or if we're gonna keep traveling.
I like
See what
that.
happens.
That's great stuff. And where can everybody follow this journey?
All on TikTok. I mean, Instagram is kind of just a place where I post cool pictures for friends and family now.
Okay.
You know, because friends and family don't go on TikTok. I mean, a lot of people are like, what is TikTok? And is it for kids? Or they don't understand that they're pushing really heavily into educational as well, too. So, yeah, just Michael Motamedi at TikTok.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Dude, it's been a pleasure, guys.
It's been great.
No, listen,
I didn't know what to expect here, but I love it. I swear to God.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome.
I mean, it's been so cool. The conversation's been great.
Literally do it all
Thank
day.
you for having me, honestly.
Yeah.
No, please, it's our pleasure. We appreciate you coming in. I know that you're only in town for a little bit, so making the time to come in and chat with us. We're
I hope I didn't ramble too much, but
No, not at all. No, this was
I think it was
great.
a good, healthy conversation.
Yeah, this is exactly like the idea here behind the Gents Talk series is conversations with men about life. Because other men, like outside of you have that core group of men in your life that you turn to, you talk to, those confidants. There's a lot of men out there that don't have that. And over the last couple of years with the pandemic, a lot of men were stuck and realized they don't have people they can turn to, or the people that they can turn to were just their significant other, which is not a bad thing, but if it's the only option, it's a bad thing. And we realized that there needs to be a platform for men who can tune in and maybe learn, maybe see things from a different perspective, hear from the gents who are living life, right? Who are experiencing things, who practice what they preach. And if they don't have that one person who's physically in their life, perhaps this might offer some insight and help them along their path. Because just, again, speaking from my own personal experience, and the reason I bring up my personal experience so often is because it almost, for me, it demonstrates that I've been there where a lot of men still are. Mm-hmm. And I can say that it gets better. You learn, you grow, and having the right group of men around you will literally move mountains for you.
I love that you say that, because there's so many times that I feel like men in general aren't allowed to express themselves, aren't allowed to be sensitive, aren't allowed to be vulnerable or emotional or talk about kind of inner thoughts that they're having, because of this stigma that whether they have for themselves or society has for themselves, whatever it may be. And so this is a great platform to be able to kind of come in and say, hey, I actually kind of feel like this, and I don't really share it with a lot of people besides a very small group of friends, but I just want to let everybody know it's okay.
Yeah, like even if it's just giving permission to have these open conversations.
Like me talking about existential crisis when my daughter's born, my dad's retiring. I mean, this is not something that like
normal men would talk about.
I'm not going around sharing this, but I think it was important, to your point. I felt, or just when I sat down here, that it was probably a good idea to be able to share that. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And I told my wife the other day, I was like, we were in the car waiting for this guy. And we were so late that we had to feed the baby. Okay. So we're feeding the kid in the car, right? There's like pear flying. There's like turkey on my pants. I mean, and my wife is feeding the kid, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, and she's so calm about things, but I'm just like stressing, right? And I was like, I told her, I'm like, I honestly think that there should be a mandate that if you have a child, you should go through therapy for the first 2 years. Because it's like there's so many things in my mind that I don't want to like put that on her. Mm-hmm. She's already has so much pressure going on, so much stuff going on. And now I'm going to be like, I'm really stressed out because you're feeding her turkey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
interesting.
And these feelings are all real. My point is that we all have them, and this is a great safe space for men. Gents Talk. I mean, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. So kudos to both of you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And stay in touch.
Perfect.
Let us know what you're doing. And then the next time you drop by Toronto again, we'll get you right back in here, and you can tell us the next spot you traveled to, the next
updated-
proverb that you've learned.
or
Maybe you
not
write them
learn.
down or not learn. You write a few down, and then we'll go from there.
All right, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
All right.